What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. My name is Miko, and I'm joined once again by my guy, Morgan Cannon, and this is your go-to place for all things Lions related. That includes news, updates, analysis, and so much more. Morgan, we are officially on day 2 of the NFL draft, and the Lions have recently just made their second round pick at pick 57 because they traded up, as well as their third round pick at pick 70. Once again, another trade up with Brad Holmes being very active here on day 2. And we're going to talk about both of the Lions picks that they made this evening. First and foremost, though, if this is your first time ever checking out the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit that notification bell. Both of those things help out the channel immensely, and it also makes it that much easier for you guys to be able to find our content in the future. But Morgan, let's just jump right into it. Day 2 is always an interesting day. Obviously, day 1 is a really long day because teams have so much time to make their picks. That time kind of gets whittled down once we get to day 2, but it's still a really long day because you have 2 rounds of draft picks going on at the time. The Lions made their first round pick yesterday, with that being defensive tackle Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Today they decided to once again add to the trenches, but this time on the offensive side of the ball with their pick at number 57, with that being offensive guard Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. And I know that's a pick that you absolutely loved, right?
Yeah, I was happy, man, just because, if you've been watching the channel through free agency, we were like, man, it would be nice if they added a veteran guard, just to add to the mix with Mahogany and Graham and, see who starts from there. Because the 3 positions are entrenched in Decker, Frank, and then Panay, obviously. So, but yeah, doing this is just even better, in my opinion, because it's going to be more cost controlled. Ratledge, Georgia Bulldog, so took all 2,081 of his career offensive snaps came at right guard. So I think that should tell us something about what position he's probably going to hone in on and what position the coaching staff probably has lined up for him too in 2025 moving forward. So yeah, it's something that was needed. I've talked about it, man. Yes, the running game's important, but so is keeping Jared Goff's front porch clean. All right, letting him step up and be clean in the pocket and maneuver. That's where he's at his best. Giving him a clear line of vision, or at least the best possible case of it. So yeah, I'm thrilled. He's a battle tested SEC guy. He was a first team All-American this past year in 2024. He's just a dog, right? I can't say enough good things about him. He was one of our guys we liked when we were talking about if they went this direction, and lo and behold, they end up doing it, right, Miko?
Yeah, absolutely. He was a guy that we were really debating between him and Jonah Anaya that got drafted earlier in the second round, actually. And so clearly the Lions had definitely pinpointed guard as a position, or at least Tate Ratledge as a player, as someone that they really wanted to bring in-house. And I think, going back all the way to the combine, he was somebody that really stood out as someone that really seemed to fit the makeup of the Detroit Lions. And so you talk about, someone that's being battle tested, a 4-year starter down there at Georgia, someone who has played a lot of football and definitely has that mean streak to him that you're definitely looking for when you're talking about an interior offensive lineman. And so that's something that does get me excited, Morgan. I was definitely happy with the trade up because, much like what we saw with the Lions when they decided to take Tyleik Williams yesterday, you just never know who else has these players on their board. And if you have a sixth sense that hey, it's only 3 spots, but you don't think that they're going to make it those 3 spots, don't be hesitant and try to wait. And I think Tate Ratledge, being Dane Brugler's 3rd interior offensive guard on his list, going up and getting a guy like that, I think is well worth the investment that they decided to make.
No doubt, bro. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, he fits everything you want in your offensive line. He's got the mullet. I'm normally not even a mullet guy, but he pulled it off. Looks good. A ton of the Georgia team, if I remember correctly, voted him as a captain. So I think he's going to slide right in, get to play between a couple of all-pros. He could be someone that has Pro Bowl level play pretty quickly, in my opinion. I think he could acclimate pretty quickly to the pro game and be a plus starter right away. That's how bullish I am on Ratledge, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think that's a really smart thing that I think a lot of people should be again in tune with when you're talking about a player like this. I know it's a second round pick. I know some people are definitely going to talk about the need for edge. We're going to talk about that in a minute when we get to this 3rd round pick that the Lions made. But we talked about this throughout the draft process, right? as big of a need that edge was, interior offensive line was just as big of a need. When you talked about earlier about like being able to cost control your offensive line, it's already starting to get pretty expensive now that Panay has a deal done. Frank was at one point in time one of the highest paid centers in football. You gave Taylor Decker an extension not too long ago. You needed some cheaper pieces on that interior offensive line. And so now that you add Tate Ratledge into the mix, you have Graham Glasgow, who was your starting left guard last year, but you also have Christian Mahogany that got to play some pretty, meaningful snaps last year and looked really good in it, in the starting lineup. It makes for a very interesting camp battle this year between those three guys. Like you said, Ratledge is probably more so slotted to the right guard position because that's where he's mostly played. But Dan and Hank Fraley, they're going to move him around and see, can he acclimate and can he possibly be a little bit more versatile, or is he purely just a right guard?
Yeah, and they always cross train everybody just because it's good practice too. But when I watch him on tape, and I'm going to get more into it, so me and Miko are going to do something from like a visual medium standpoint for the film, and then I'll have a written one too for Ratledge and Tyleek and all of them. But I put him between Frank and Panay and just have like an almost impenetrable wall over there in pass pro, and then you can just beat people to sleep. Because you mentioned it, he's got a nasty streak. When I have watched him on film, when he gets his hands into your chest plate, and he's able to like control you, he wants to finish you and like rub your nose in it, man. Like, yeah. So, and I love that. He's got some mahogany to him. If you want to call him like a dirtbag cousin, he 100% could be. And I love that you brought up the cost control point, because say Ratledge is a hit and Mahogany earns the starting left guard position this year. Well, then you got your guards for at least 3 years on some nice cost controlled contracts and hopefully really high level play. And for all the hubbub that's being made about salary, the salary cap and contracts, doing that, like what we just talked about, like if Tyleek's a hit and if Ratledge is a hit and our boy coming up, TeSlaa, then it makes it easier. Like, okay, we can't pay BB, we can pay Gibbs, we can pay blah, blah, blah. Like we can make it happen. So to me, this feels pretty safe, man. Like this is I know I'm not a SEC truther. I think it's a little more spread out right now, but it's a good football education, right, Miko? Like I trust SEC offensive linemen. They've seen it.
I was going to say, when you have a guy that's been first team All-American, second team All-American, and then first team All-SEC in back-to-back seasons, it's probably a good indicator that he's a really good player. Don't let the second round draft, slot fool you. It's just that, not every team values interior offensive linemen the same. But you hit on something a little bit earlier in regards to the Lions' third round pick, and like you mentioned, we are going to talk about that. The Lions once again trade up from pick 102 all the way up to pick 70, so that's a fairly significant jump. Very costly. The Lions did have to give up 2 future third round picks in addition to pick 102 to jump up that high. They did receive, I believe, a 6th round pick this year, as well as a future 6th round pick as well. So trying to obviously make that balance out a little bit, but the Lions go up and they draft a wide receiver, WR Isaac TeSlaa out of Arkansas. And I'm going to be very candid. This was one that's not as exciting as the Ratledge pick, right? This one is a little lukewarm to me, and it's not necessarily related to the player as much as it is the position. And it was specifically what was on the board and what we're talking about in terms of what you just invested to go that high.
Yeah, no doubt. And I get that it's giving some people pause with the price like that we paid to move up. I get that. So to give a little more context, TeSlaa, that's how you say it, not the car way. I confirm that.
Yeah.
It's from Hudsonville, Michigan. So if you're a Michigander, like, the Hudsonville ice cream, that's my favorite brand personally. Shout out Hudsonville. If you want to send me like a free thing or something, I'll review it on here.
We would love to be sponsored.
Love some ice cream. Yeah, they follow me on Twitter, which is funny. I'm like, that's pretty fat of you, Morgan. So started his career at Hillsdale College, so Division II level, went crazy there, ended up at Arkansas. So the thing, I guess, to give context is he's only been playing the position 5 years. So receiver, contrary to some people, like what they think, like it is a detailed, nuanced craft, man. That's why, like, people are like, why is Amon-Ra St. Brown's open all the time? And that's not to diminish him as an athlete. He's a good athlete. He's very strong, but he does everything. He's a technician. This is what they mean about being a technician. So with TeSlaa, he's a super freaky athlete. He's 6'4", 215 pounds, ran a sub 4, 440. like 10-9 broad jump. He's a twitchy like athlete. Like when you turn on the tape, you see it in the lower body, like almost like some Sam Laporta. You're like a little surprised. Well, I am typically when I see a white guy move like that, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you got a little juice to you in a good way. So that's long term. He's, in my opinion, this year he's going to be a prominent special team player. Get some reps at probably all different positions, kind of baptism by fire in the offense, and back up Tim Patrick. And then hopefully 2026 he's ready to roll. And again, that if he is, then that's your X receiver for at least 3 more years, and it's at a nice little cost control deal. And he has the body and the frame. I want to watch more film of him, because what I've read and what little I've seen, he's not separating from corners the way he should be with how athletic and twitchy he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's really speaks to, like you were saying before, the nuance of the position, right? Going out and playing receiver is not just about being able to run fast. It's also, can you break down out of your routes? Can you be able to create that separation? Do you know how to create leverage? Those types of nuances, coupled with athleticism, can make you a very, very good wide receiver at the next level. That's what separates the great receivers from the good to decent receivers, is those nuances. It's not just what they do or how they test. And so that's where I think things for me, and I think for other fans as well, are going to get really dicey, because it very much sounds, when you say like, hey, this is a guy who's only played the position for 5 years, doesn't have like crazy production when he did play D1 schools, this starts to sound very similar to Broderick Martin, right? And obviously we know how things have been trending for Broderick Martin the last few years with him on the Lions roster. The thing that does give me more hope, though, Morgan, is that wide receiver, I think, is a position that you can couple those athletic profiles to find your way onto the field. And the fact that playing receiver in the Lions offense, especially if you're playing that X role, your job is a lot easier when you get to play off of the likes of Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams and Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of those guys are going to get so much of the attention that even if you do get to go out there and you're getting some snaps here and there, as long as you can run the routes and you have good hands, which TeSlaa does have, didn't drop a pass during his time in Arkansas, like, you feel really good about his ability to succeed. Now, I will say, while the production isn't incredible with his time at Arkansas, the fact that he's been able to put together like the type of career that he has, only playing the position for such a short amount of time, is encouraging. And you do want to believe that, like, okay, if he's able to get into this wide receiver room that has a very good mix of, youth with Amon-Ra and Jamo, with veterans like Khalif and Tim Patrick, that maybe he can be brought along at a decent enough pace to where he can eventually find his way onto the field. And again, you never know what happens in camp and who's able to still be healthy. Maybe that really opens up a door for him to really make an impact.
Yeah, and like, I think best case scenario is he doesn't see a ton of regular season offensive snaps in 2025 and then develops. And in my opinion, like, when the Lions do this, because everyone can make the Ratledge picks and the Hutchinson picks and the Panay picks. Like, okay, like, yeah, we get that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the picks where Brad is sure. And yeah, he's had to, like Broderick, that's not looking like such a great situation so far. But then he's had a bunch of them where he's like, yeah, I called my, I knew Kirby was going to be that way. I knew Saint was going to be that way. Like Derek Barnes, boom, like was raw coming out of Purdue. I knew it, like blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just good. So in my opinion, this is Dan and Brad strutting their stuff a little bit, because they know, or they believe they know, that getting TeSlaa in their room, like you just said, and working with that group with like diverse like experience levels and skill sets, and you have Scotty Montgomery coach, like not taking anything from Antoine Randall, love that man too, but you got Scotty coaching that room now, and it's going to be a point of emphasis. So it's Brad and Dan trusting his scouting department's like word and like the profile they've generated for this prospect, and then it's Dan trusting his coaching staff to be like, yeah, we can make this guy a plus caliber receiver by 2026, so he can step in and be the X. Because like you said, man, there's not much. It has to be one of the more coveted positions in the NFL, because you're not asked much, right? Make a catch here and there, maybe move the chains, but no one's really paying attention to you. You're like fifth most worried. You know what I mean?
Well, Yeah, and I think that's the thing that, like, again, should be really, if you're worried that, like, okay, well, is he actually going to see time on the field? It's like, sure, he could, right? It is going to be tough to unseat Tim Patrick, who had a really good year and was able to, and he has that knowledge of the game that TeSlaa is going to have to kind of catch up with. But I do feel confident that when TeSlaa at least gets his opportunities, like with this athletic profile, with the type of offense that the Lions, which we have to see like how this offense is going to change, but we all know who the main focuses on this offense are going to be. Like that doesn't change.
No, for sure.
One other thing that I wanted to say about him before we kind of like wrap this up as well. This is a guy that's a willing blocker, right? Like that's something that Dane Brugler does point out, that he is, again, with all that size and that type of tenacity, definitely displays some toughness, has shown that ability to play special teams on both punt coverage and punt return. So again, you never know where you can potentially still keep him on the roster, and where if he's at least on the active roster, Morgan, and active on game days, this is already a better pick than Broderick Martin. But I do feel like Brad, to your point, is definitely calling his shot by making a move like this. This one, to me, probably more than any of the other picks, I feel like has to hit though. When you're trading away future third round picks, like this becomes a guy that really has to find a way to have an impact on the team. I'm not saying that it has to be his rookie year, but within the next couple years, like he's got to really start being like a key part of this offense.
No, completely agree. I think if you're watching this video to set the table for this year, set the bar low, I think he'll be, like Miko just said, I think he'll be a core special teamer, like maybe on every single like punt return, kickoff, kick return. I think he could be on all of those. He could be, valuable depth. Hopefully he improves and can like hone in on his craft quickly, because if injuries do happen, he could be forced into it. And then you're learning, you're drinking from the fire hose and the bullets are live, whatever metaphor you want to use, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, my best case scenario, he's competing for a starting position in 2026. I think they trust like a guy like Tim Patrick to be a vet and like show him the ropes and not be like an a-hole, like an Aaron Rodgers type, deal.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
But yeah, it's all there. Like his RAS 993, shout out Kentley Platty. His grit index, shout out Eric and Anthony, 77.36. So I get the profile and why Brad's, team likes him. But yeah, to your point, that's going to have to pay some dividends, and it probably not that in the not so distant future. You know what I'm saying? Like 2026, I think he'll have to get it going.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to, or I would at least probably have that expectation. Barring how he does this his rookie year, there's going to be probably some heightened expectation going into that 2026 season. But that's pretty much going to do it for us, guys. Those are kind of our early thoughts on the Tate Ratledge selection, as well as the Isaac TeSlaa selection as well. We want to hear from you guys, though. What do you guys think about these two draft picks? What would you grade them? How do you feel about them? Are you excited? Are you disappointed? And what are your expectations for both of these guys now that they've been added to the roster? Do you expect them to be key contributors, starters, reserve guys? Let us know all that in the comment section below. And like always, if you are looking for any more additional content about any of these draft picks, prideofdetroit.com is your go-to spot for all of those things. There are going to be articles going up all night, giving you guys more insight about these players, even a little bit of film here and there about showing what they do well if you're not familiar with someone like Isaac TeSlaa. And like Morgan alluded to earlier, he and I are eventually going to do a series after the draft is over where we're going to basically break down all these draft picks and look at what they do well on the football field and what we can expect from them as they come into the Lions organization. But with all that said, I'm Miko. He's Morgan. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to hit that notification bell. Those things help us out immensely. And with all that said, we'll be sure to catch you guys in the next one.